I want to be clear that my environmental concerns existed before 2025. I couldn't really even keep my priorities straight, right? Like I had a plan for the year, or I was trying to establish a plan for the year. And at the same time, we had a lot of things hitting us from the news, a lot of things hitting our community, a lot of fear and stress in our community. But quite frankly, to me, for the last few years, it seemed that our community was already facing those issues.
It's often, can be a gloomy business to be in, but ever more so now, where a lot of the progress we have made, especially in the last 4 years during the Biden administration, is being undone or seriously threatened. Working in Texas, of course, we're used to very challenging political environments. We still have a governor and legislature for whom or for which the environment is not a top priority, and often do the bidding of the big polluters, and don't prioritize public health in our environment.
As we've seen, a lot of the things that were accomplished in the last administration were able to be undone with the stroke of a pen. And moving forward, these gains, whether it's environmental justice or whether it's transparency of information for our communities, they have to be diffuse when that next administration comes, and moving forward, that it's not simply pulling one Jenga piece and the whole thing falls. Really creating a broad-based foundation that will be able to sustain regardless of who is in the White House.
We opposed the expansion of the Exxon Baytown olefins plant, and we did a contested case through the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, the state regulator, and ultimately lost, even though we presented a lot of evidence that the expansion would increase pollution and threaten human health, and then potentially jeopardize the region's ability to meet federally required air quality standards.
They know that not only do they have a friendly administration, we also have a judiciary now, largely molded by the first Trump administration, that is very unlikely to hold them account. And now we have at the federal level, the EPA and the Department of Justice also, that are most likely not to go after corporate bad actors.
There are some issues in my community that are recurrent. They haven't gone away, and they've been there for a long time. One of them is extreme poverty. A lot of the communities that we work with, their annual income sometimes ranges from as low as $14,000. But we have other layers on top of that. Because we're a major port city, we have a lot of shipping that goes in and out of the city, as well as a lot of freight in and out of the city. So we have a lot of diesel pollution. We have a lot of PM 2.5. And in addition to that, we have the largest petrochemical industry in the country down the street.
If they're not willing to use environmental justice considerations to hold areas like the Houston, Brazoria, Galveston area in compliance, then we know that that's going to lead to detrimental health and safety impacts for our community. And we're starting to see that.
There's this website called that the EPA put out called the EJ tool, the Environmental Justice Tool. And it was incredibly helpful. That's where I found out about how low the income levels were in some of the communities around me. That's where I found out, how high some of the illness rates, asthma rates are also nearby. And so that website is no longer available. That's harmful to us. That's harmful to my work directly because it's one more complication in me finding that information and relaying it to community.
As an environmental justice organization, I mean, our work is not siloed. It can't be. And so the 4 communities that Fenceline Watch works most closely with, Magnolia Park, Manchester, Harrisburg, Smith Addition, there's a preponderance of communities that are limited English proficient, primarily Spanish speakers. We have a lot of undocumented families. And so what's happening on the ground has a tangible impact on our work.
We're trying to find more ways to reach out to people and find issues where we can find common ground. And so that is another factor then, and not wanting to just rail against everything Trump does, because I think it makes it harder then to have those conversations with some of his supporters.
What I do know is that we desperately needed a change, and that maybe this is the opportunity where we get to recreate what we really need.
To do this kind of work, you have to have a dose of optimism, right? Or else you just go crazy. And so whether I'm just naive or just eternally optimistic, I still think we have a path forward.
While it's definitely made the work harder and increased the workload, it has, as I said earlier, it's steeled our resolve. It's made us understand that now more than ever, it's going to have to be us. Whether it's establishing an administrative record through comments, whether it's making sure that we find allies regionally, nationally, and even globally to do the work that our government does not deem necessary, that's fine. And, leaning into that necessary rage